Hey everybody, my name is Brendan Noble and I'm a young adult author. This week on our Slavic Saturday series where I talk about Slavic mythology, history, and folklore related to my Slavic fantasy book series that I'll be writing. And this week we're talking about probably the most famous witch in maybe most of mythology, but especially Slavic mythology. And this is because a lot of people have been asking me for it, but specifically my friend Aaron has been pestering me saying he really wants to hear me talk about Baba Yaga. So that's what we're talking about this week. It's the witch Baba Yaga. So a promise is a promise, and here we go. First of all, though, I want to let you know that at the end of this video, there's going to be an opportunity for you to get some of the books I've already written for free and with a quick survey, so stay around for that and I'll let you know the details. So it's really hard to know where to start with a character with such renown. If you haven't heard of Baba Yaga, you might actually be in a minority. Baba Yaga has shown up in so many different stories, whether it's Slavic or not. And that's kind of interesting, especially because a lot of Russian folklore has not gone outside of Russia. But Baba Yaga has made so many large appearances that we'll talk about later. And it's really hard to wrap your mind around her as a character because she is so large. She is in more folk tales than you can possibly count. And in them, she has many different roles. She can be anything from the evil sorceress in the woods to the motherly protector of the woods, or just a chaotic neutral character that likes to mess with people. And all of these kind of have a weird way of meshing together to a paradoxical character. And in this stories and how many folktales she's in, she is influential in Slavic myth and folklore, and perhaps probably more so than the Western knight or any Western hero possibly could be in Western ideas, because she is in so many stories that even if she's never really the protagonist, she's always there and you are always expecting her, which is an interesting mechanism that is often in their folktales. Some commonalities, though, is that she's pictured as an old crone in the woods, riding in a mortar and wielding a pestle with sometimes cannibalistic tendencies. She has a house that is a hut-like thing on chicken legs, and her fence is made of human bones. Her doorpost is made of human femurs, and the lock on her door is made of human teeth. Are you sensing the theme yet? But despite this whole aspect of her having human bones everywhere, skulls, teeth, whatever, she's usually not depicted as purely evil, which is weird, because normally, especially in Western kind of stories, there's this you're good or you're evil. And while much of the stuff that Baba Yaga does is obviously evil, she often ends up helping the protagonist in a very roundabout way. She can also fight the protagonist and be a major enemy, but she can also very much help the protagonist. And this is a really weird paradox. She is both a life giver as a kind of motherly figure in the forest, but she's also a symbol of death. She's kind of the symbol of a woman apart from society, and so there's this weird paradoxical balance, weirdness between wilds and the society, and then life and death. And in this, she almost resembles some of the largest themes in Slavic myth in one person. She can resemble the fight between Yarilo and Marzana in one story, just in herself. She can show the resemblance of many of the other gods conflicting, and the conflict of people themselves against nature in just a single person. And I think that's why there's so much power behind her, is that she has this core element of the Slavic history of the fight and the struggle and the different stories that go through it, that she's become the benchmark of for a hero to become a hero, they have to pass by Baba Yaga. And that's kind of amazing that the story has risen to that point and why it's so crucial to both Russian and Slavic myth. And again, because the heroes don't run away from this house when they see a house on chicken legs with bones and everything everywhere, it's become this rite of passage. And every major hero has it. One of the most famous stories of that is that of Vassilissa the Beautiful, which is a very, very popular Russian folktale. And I'm going to tell a kind of shortened version of it because it can be a very long story. So Vassilissa is kind of the Russian version of Cinderella. Some people might not agree with that, but her mother died at a young age, and this obviously was very hard for her. And her mother left her behind a wooden doll, and she told her that this wooden doll would have to be fed and given water, and then it would help her in times of need. And so she did this, and then the wooden doll comforted her after her mother's death. And then when her father remarried and her stepmother and her stepsisters mistreated her very much like Cinderella, she was forced to do all the tasks around the house and everything. And then her father, who was a merchant, had to leave on a long trip, and her mother sold the house and moved them into a small hut in the woods. I don't know exactly why, but she does. And then all of the candles are put out, and any candle they try to light in this hut in the woods fails. And so the stepsisters force Vassilissa to go out into the woods and find a new source of light. And Vassilissa does this. She encounters a bunch of riders along the way, which I don't have time to explain, but she also runs into Baba Yaga's house, and she's kind of frozen by fear, and Baba Yaga kind of grabs her and says that she's going to make her do work or she will kill her. So Vassilissa, she's scared, but she does the work, and she's been used to doing so much work. But Baba Yaga has her doing a ton of things, and throughout the day she literally becomes so exhausted like she can't stand anymore. And when she collapses, she thinks that she'll probably die because Baba Yaga will come back, see she hasn't completed the task, and kill her. But the doll helps her complete the task because she gives it the food and water and stuff. And then when Baba Yaga returns, she sees that the task was completed. She asks Vassilissa why she was able to complete the task, and she responds that it was because of her mother's blessing. Baba Yaga is aghast by that. She doesn't want anyone in her house that has any type of blessing whatsoever because she's the witch. And so she kicks Vassilissa out, but first she gives her a skull lantern filled with flaming coals as reward because she did complete the task. And so Vassilissa goes back and meets her stepmother and her stepsisters and finds that they've continued trying to bring new candles into the house, but every time they enter the threshold, the light is extinguished. But when Vassilissa returns with the coals, she steps in and the lantern burns everyone else to death, and except her. And so she's kind of set free from her step family, and she just goes to the Russian capital, eventually becomes a weaver, and the Tsar is impressed with her, and she marries the Tsar happily ever after. So that's kind of an odd story. I skipped a lot of bits, but it kind of shows that there's this, again, a rite of passage in a lot of these stories where she completes the task that Baba Yaga gives her, so she receives the reward. Obviously, Baba Yaga kind of wanted to kill her and probably use her bones for her fence posts or something. But there's this kind of weird aspect of, yeah, she's dark and dangerous, but if you complete the task and do something, you can actually get a very powerful reward. And so it's this weird aspect in it that's very unique and kind of fun in a dark way. Other popular depictions of Baba Yaga might have her as three witches instead of one, such as the crones in the Witcher series, which is a series based on a lot of Slavic mythology. And this is kind of commonality where sometimes Baba Yaga will be a single witch or she will be three witches, taking on slightly different roles, but the stories tend to be very similar. And Baba Yaga also shows up in some other stories, including the Winter Night Trilogy by Catherine Arden, which is another popular fantasy series based on Russian mythology. And then in my own series, I don't want to reveal too much yet, but I do have plans for Baba Yaga because she is such an important character in Slavic mythology. I feel like you can't write Slavic mythology without including her. But I want to make sure I do it right because, like I said, she has such an influential role in the mythology of Russia and Slavic countries, and I want to make sure I do it right. So she'll be given the time that she needs. But that's all I have on the Slavic Saturday this week. On the giveaway I was talking about earlier, I am doing a survey of my readers and people watching these videos to kind of see what their preferences are for different book stuff. The link's down in the comments below. If you fill it out, I'll be giving out 10 copies of any book in the dystopian PRISM file series that I've written, signed copies of that. And then I'm also giving out the first two books of the series, Fractured Prism and Crimson Reigns, in ebook form to anyone that fills it out, so you can get started on that series for free. So just click the link down below and make sure you also subscribe and like down below if you enjoyed this video. I'll be making videos like this every Saturday.